emphasised dependent children who can't be left on their own, who can't be left alone.
Yes.
Does that mean you would expect, say, teenage kids to be included in the two people?
No, formally. So I'll give you the example from our family. So it'd be Kath and I come visit you, James. We've got 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 13-year-old. Perhaps the 13-year-old needs to come with us, so he would come with us and we'd come visit you, and that would be the only visitors you receive that day, and your place would be the only place where we went that day. The 18-year-old is not, in fact, a dependent. He is treated as an adult, but the reason it's not just kids, somebody may have an elderly relative who's part of their household and it's not appropriate to leave them home. So we've tried to make it as flexible as possible, but the challenge with this is you want it to be clear. The main point here, 2 adults and those who can't be left alone, and an 18-year-old is counted as an adult, not as a child. Then the really key point, 1 group to visit you, and they can't visit anyone else that day, and you can't receive any other visitors that day. I know it gets a bit torturous, but that's as simple as we can make it.
It's 1 visit per day, whether you're visiting or being visited. That's
correct.
It.
Exactly.
And what's the situation for those teenagers if they want to visit people? You know, are they able to visit?
Well, that would be that will count as the 1 visit to that house. So if one of my kids wants to go and visit a friend, then that's the only visit that person can make, and it's the only visit the only visitor that household can have. So it's just about trying to limit the amount of contact as much as possible. And it's not easy to write these rules. We've never had to do this. We've never had to do this before. There will be, again, some arrangements for single parents and things of that nature, because we understand that, you know, trying to define a family is quite challenging. Trying to define a household sometimes is really hard too. We'll have all of that up on the website this afternoon, so that people have got as much clarity as we can give them.
4-person share house, for example.
Yeah, so
that
is exactly right.
They've got to alternate over 4 days, maybe.
Exactly. So share houses are a particularly challenging environment, and we do have a set of words around that. Now, I do stress though, whilst the share house, the notion of having a rotation, that's what will have to happen inside the house. You can go down the park though with as many households as you like, as long as you haven't got more than 10 people. So again, we'd always encourage people to try and connect outside, to try and utilise those rules that we've written. But this does give people an opportunity to connect inside in their family home. I'm sorry that there have to be limits, but there's just no other choice that we can responsibly and safely make. Now, on masks, we would recommend that people wear masks whenever they can. We can't enforce that though, I'm just being frank about it. We're not going to have police knocking on every door every day. But we just ask people to use some common sense, because that's what's got us here. People doing the right thing and being practical, being determined, that's what's delivered these numbers. And if we can just keep doing that in all the little choices we make every single day, that adds up to a big cumulative effort that makes us as a community a much smaller target for this thing, a much smaller target.
Just to clarify Rachel's point on teenagers, so if your 16-year-old teenager
Yes.
visited a friend, can you then visit James?
Yeah, we're going to have to work that through. Certainly for the purposes of, and Brett might want to add to my answer, for the purposes of the person who's received my 16-year-old daughter as a visitor that day, well, that's their 1 visit. In terms of the rest of the household, Brett may want to add to that.
It's 1 household visit, so that would be it for your household.
Yes, that would be it for the household as well. Sorry, it's always important to get the wording right. And there are 1,000 different options here, but ultimately, if you think about it, Grace goes and visits a friend, Grace comes home, we might as well all have gone and visited, because Grace could be bringing the virus back into our house. So that's the basic logic to it. I paused just because we don't want to do anything other than be accurate. But one visit to your home, and then that means you can't go and visit anyone else.